Hello, my name is Damien de Walque, and I will be presenting work that I've done with Christine Valente at the University of Bristol. I'm from the research department of the World Bank, and our work is about incentivizing school attendance in the presence of parent-child information frictions. The motivation for that work is that parents and children may disagree on the optimal level of investment in the children's human capital, and children may have substantial agency in schooling decision. And if this is the case, there may be more cost-effective alternatives to the very popular conditional cash transfer CCT program model. Since payments are only made conditional on compliance with the attendance target, receiving the conditional transfer can have an information value to the parent. And if this information effect is large relative to the overall CCT effect, attendance gains could be achieved at a much lower cost than with a conditional cash transfer. In addition, if children have private information about their attendance, incentivizing children themselves could be more cost-effective than incentivizing their parents. So what we are doing in this study is providing experimental evidence of the effect of three alternative policies. The first one is providing weekly information to parents about their child's attendance. We'll call that the information treatment. Second one is providing this information and making transfer to parents conditional on attendance. That's what we're calling cash to parents or CCT treatment. And the third one is providing this information and making transfer to children conditional on attendance. We'll call that girls voucher treatment. And this voucher can be used to purchase a selection of private goods. And we do this for girls in senior primary grades in 173 schools in predominantly rural Mozambique. Our contribution is that for the first time, we isolate the information effect of a conditional transfer program. We do so by comparing the effect of the information only and the CCT treatments. In addition, we compare the effect of incentivizing parents versus incentivizing children to attain an attendance target, and we provide evidence that children returns are at least as important as those of parents for the attendance decision. I think our work is policy relevant. The annual cost of increasing attendance in our experiment, increasing attendance by 1% is 33 cents for the information treatment, $1.37 for the voucher treatment, and $2.54 for the conditional cash transfer intervention. What is our institutional background? We do this in Mozambique, in the province of Manica. It's a low-income country, poorer than the rest of sub-Saharan Africa with low population density. Net enrollment in primary education has increased and is high, 84% for girls, 89% for boys, but it's not as high as in other sub-Saharan African countries. There are gender inequalities as pupils progress over primary school, so that despite similar enrollment rates in early grades, the completion rate is 56% for males, but only 48% for girls. So intervention focused on girls in what is called EP2 in Mozambique, that is grade 6 and 7 of primary school or senior primary school. We partnered with a local community development NGO, well known in the province, to implement the intervention, but we partnered with another organization to collect the data. Our study design, more in detail, we have 4 experimental groups randomized at the school levels. In one group, we give vouchers to girls. We quarterly gave them 400 meticais, a value of 8.3 US dollar, vouchers to the girls to buy generic school uniforms, like shoes, or school bags and packs of smaller items, pens, notebooks, soap, etc. The choice of items was based on focus groups suggesting that these were both desirable and likely for girls to be able to hold on to. The other group is cash to parents. We gave them quarterly the same amount, 400 meticais or 8.3 US dollar, and made the same items as above available for optional purchase at the school. Both transfers were conditional on 90% attendance per trimester, and that condition was verified based on a report card filled in by the teacher and sent back home at the end of each week. We had also an information treatment where we were just giving this weekly attendance report card. There was also a pure control group, but there was just an initial school visit from the NGO, and data collection in the school and the household survey. So this is an example in Portuguese of this weekly attendance report card. You see it's very simple with circles showing if the girl was present and an X showing whether she was absent. And this was understandable even by illiterate parents. Our design, further details on our design. So the beneficiaries could receive up to 1,200 meticais or $25 over the course of the study. That corresponds to 7% of GDP per capita in Mozambique, or 8 days of a laborer's wage in the area. The average annual expenditure on personal items consumed by eligible girls in the control group was 867 meticais. In order to compensate the teacher for the time, about 5 minutes per day, in filling the report cards, 250 meticais for phone recharge per trimester were given if they provided up-to-date report cards at each post-check visit by the surveyor. What is our data? So twice per trimester, there was an unannounced attendance post-check by the data firm. The enumerators were not informed of the treatment out until the end-line household survey. And they collected pupil attendance, that's our main outcome, teacher attendance. 76.3% of schools were surveyed 6 times, 4.6% of schools surveyed 1 to 3 times, with no difference between the treatment arm. We also had a baseline and end-line household survey based on random draws from a list of potentially eligible girls provided by the schools at baselines, and that's where we derive all of our other variables. There was some differential attrition, which we address in robustness checks. The randomization was at the school level and was stratified at the district level. A joint F-test cannot reject that baseline characteristics of the eligible population served by school were the same between each experimental group pair, but still we have some individual difference which are statistically significant, and we provide robustness checks controlling for these baseline characteristics. Our estimation, we follow ATI and IMBAN's 2017 recommendation of analyzing the data at the cluster level rather than at the individual level, and cluster the standard errors. In this way, all the simple randomization results applied directly. And here are our main results. So that's the effect on schooling outcomes. So in column 1, you have the effect on attendance. You see that from a mean in the control group of 65%, the information increased attendance by 4.5 percentage point. That's for the information only. The cash to the parents, the effect is 6 percentage point. And for the girl voucher, the increase in attendance is 8.3 percentage points. These are not statistically different from each other, but they are statistically different from 0. We find, and so there, in column 4, these results are robust when we control for baseline characteristics. We find very small effect on enrollment. That's mainly because enrollment is quite high to start with, and the result that we have are not very robust. But we find effects on test scores, namely the math score from the ACER, but we find only significant impact for the information-only intervention and the girl voucher, and the effect for the parent cash are smaller and not statistically significant. So let's discuss these effects on test scores. A meta-analysis effect of CCT on test score found basically 0 effect. That may be driven by selection, as it's so often based on school data, but that's not the case here. We find a positive effect of the information only in the girl voucher treatment, but the CCT effect is statistically insignificant despite a similar effect on attendance. We cannot rule out the CCT effect of about half the size of other treatments, but we can reject equal effect. We think that the design of our experiment and the pattern of results largely rules out many explanations which could otherwise account for the common finding that CCT improve attendance but not learning. Among others, selection into taking the test, low or worsening school quality, multitasking parents, or crowding out of intrinsic motivation. So our conclusion is that the estimated effect of the information component on attendance, 4.5 percentage points, is as large as 75% of the effect of the conditional cash transfer treatment. We also conclude that children's return to school attendance matter at least as much as parental returns to their child's attendance in the decision to attend, since both conditional transfer have similar effect and not because parents were able to appropriate the transfer made to the children. We also replicate the puzzling finding from most evaluation of conditional cash transfer on attendance versus test scores. In contrast, both the information treatment and the children's incentive treatment improve mass test scores. Conclusion in terms of policy, so an easily scalable paper and pen method can be an effective intervention to reduce child absenteeism at school in developing country settings, where budget allows financial incentive for attendance to be considered. It might be beneficial to increase and make more salient the information component of the intervention. And if some information frictions remain, it may be more cost effective to incentivize the children, depending on logistical costs. More generally, our results give support to the hypothesis that children have agency in decisions concerning their education. Taken together with recent studies from middle to high-income urban country study areas, they provide compelling evidence that information asymmetries exist in a range of settings and can be leveraged to improve educational outcomes at comparatively low cost. I will end here and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.